Droog, I suppose, Darragh, look, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected all aspects of sports, health and fitness, nutrition, all the kind of the side industries, physiotherapy, sports massage that are tied up around sports. How has it affected you, I suppose, and how are you operating at the moment?
Uh, yeah, Raf, it's certainly affected us. I suppose my role as lead S&C for the Limerick Hurling Academy, that the rules of engagement has changed entirely from what was. You would have been on field 6 times a week in the gym 2 to 3 nights a week, and contact with hundreds of players on a weekly basis, and not to mind a similar amount of coaches. So all of that has changed entirely. So certainly your contact points have changed, or how you remain in contact has completely changed. So I'm sure, like most other people, we've gone online to an online platform for meetings originally, and then into online fitness sessions. So I suppose we're able to keep going. The academy, in essence, is able to kind of keep going and fundamentally develop from my point of view. So from an athletic performance point of view, we're actually able to keep going quite well, bar any kind of open running or quite specific field-based running for the sport itself. But in terms of strength development and understanding of body movements, well, we're actually nearly ahead of ourselves, because what would have been before, you had to share the space and time that you had with hurling, because it's hurling. Now we've got kind of nearly exclusive rights to the players, because there's not really much hurling that they can do. So from that point of view, we've been very, very lucky. We're lucky that the weather's been really good. We're lucky that we have online platforms to work with. We're lucky that most players have a device at home that they can get online with, that the internet is good enough. So yes, it's changed. Yes, we're not in direct contact, but absolutely we're still able to do our business from my point of view. So from an athletic performance or strength and conditioning, we're able to work.
Yeah, and I suppose the one there that I'd be asking is, you could envisage how it would be relatively okay to manage the cardio side of things, but the weights, the S&C, are we looking at body weight exercises? What are we looking at in that instance?
We're looking at body weight exercises. So I suppose, like, if we look through the early development ages, so for us in the academy, we get them as 13-year-olds, so under 14. So lots of body weight type exercises are really low external weight. So really like kettlebells or medicine balls, or really, tins of paint we're using, any kind of household item at all that can add an external load, we get to use it. We have really good workouts with the likes of beach towels. So really good long beach towels that we can work and pull resistance against and stuff. So like isometric work, which is the muscle is contracting, but it's not actually moving. So much, if you wanted to reference it like a scrum, so if the two front rows are the two sets of forwards were pushing against each other as hard as they could while not moving. So that's isometric movement. Sorry, that's an isometric contraction. So the muscle's at full contraction, but it's not actually moving. So we get to do lots of that with towel-based stuff. And we just go through what movement looks and feels like. So as an under 14, under 15, they're getting really good understanding around how your body's supposed to move, what a hip hinge looks like, so all the movements we would develop and bring them into gym-wise thereon once they were most proficient. Well, and we're able to get that work done now. And I mean, for me, luckily with these online forums, that they all have their own individual little tile that you can look at. So I plug that into my TV, so I get a supersized, larger screen image. I've been able to go, hey, Johnny, just move your hips a little bit, or, you can alter and adjust from there. So it's actually quite good. It's actually quite good, I'll be honest.
And is there learnings from what you've done and how you've worked in this environment that you could take forward that you might work better in the future?
Yeah. I think there's definitely going to be some way that we can use this online forum a lot. Whether it's recovering from players from injury who may not be on field with you, and you dialing in with another type session. Obviously, we will go back, hopefully, whenever we do get a chance to go back, that we go back to on field and we'll resume as per normal. But certainly, players who are not able to make sessions, for one reason or another, be that at academy level or adulthood. Like at adulthood, they may be working away and they may not be able to make your midweek session. Well, then in terms of a gym session, they just have to dial in. So around stuff like that, around returning to play protocols, especially players who are kind of on their own and been left to do stuff on their own. It's it's a difficult time for them psychologically and emotionally to try and make their way back. So I can certainly see some elements around that where it can be very, very useful for both player and coach.
And finally, Darragh, I suppose, look, we're all hoping that GA action, sports action, can resume safely over the time frame is really up in the air. We'll have to wait for government guidelines. But I suppose, what have you missed most about it, and what are you looking forward to most when it comes back?
So I suppose I'm probably missing the human connection point. While fine, it's, you're on screen with 40, 50 other people on screen, and it's fine. It's still a bit false. So you miss the actual human connection point where you're asking fellas how they are. You're having a conversation about how their day went. So while it's brilliant, we're able to use it to the best of its capacity, this online forums. But you still can't be the human connection point. You still can't get to understand the player, how his day was, what he's finding difficult. It's a little bit harder to communicate effectively like that through this medium of screen to screen. So I really miss that. I really miss just the connection point with coaches equally as much as it is players. So I'd be really looking forward to that coming back.